Hi, good day. Welcome back to our math class. For today's discussion, we will be discussing about properties of multiplication. But first, let's have our story problem about candies. There are 3 boxes of candies. Each box is empty. There's no candy in it. How many candies are there in all? Now, let's analyze our story problem. Based on our story problem, what is being asked? Yes, how many candies are there in all? How about the given data? Exactly, 3 boxes of candies and 0 candy. So, based on the question and the given data, the equation that we'll have will be 0 times 3 is equal to n. Now, let's solve our equation. 0 times 3, which means adding 3 groups of 0. So 0 plus 0 plus 0 is equal to 0. Means 0 times 3 is equal to 0. Therefore, our final answer is there were no candy in all. Okay? But what did you notice about the product? If 0 is multiplied by any number. Yes, as you can see, the product is 0. Okay? And that is what we call properties of multiplication. And we have 5 properties of multiplication. First, 0 property for multiplication. Second, identity property for multiplication. Third, commutative property for multiplication. Fourth, associative property for multiplication. And last but not the least is distributive property for multiplication over addition. But for today's session, we'll be discussing only 4 properties of multiplication. It will be 0 property, identity property, commutative property, and associative property for multiplication. Okay? So let's start with 0 property for multiplication. 0 is a special factor. Any number multiplied by 0 is always equal to 0. Just like what we have in our story problem. So example, 0 times 5 is equal to 0. 0 times 8 is equal to 0. And 7 times 0 is equal to 0. Again, any number multiplied by 0 is always equal to 0. Okay? So next, property. Identity property for multiplication. When we say identity property for multiplication, this will be the product of any number and 1 equals the number itself. The number 1 is called the identity element of multiplication. Let's have some example. So, 1 times 3 is equal to 3. 1 times 7 is equal to 7. And 9 times 1 is equal to 9. Again, identity property for multiplication is the product of any number and 1 equals the number itself. So, any number that multiplied by 1 is equal to the number itself. Okay? So, how about commutative property for multiplication? So, commutative property for multiplication is the order of factors does not change the product. Okay? So, if 4 times 3 is equal to 12, then what is 3 times 4? Very good. It's still 12. Again, if you will change the order of the factors, 4 times 3 or 3 times 4, the product will not change. So the answer are the same. Another example, 6 times 4 is equal to 24 and 4 times 6 is still 24. Another one, 8 times 7 is equal to 56 and 7 times 8 is equal to 56. And this is what we call commutative property for multiplication. Again, the order of the factors does not change the product. So if you will just changing the position of the factors, it's okay because it does not change the product. And that is commutative property for multiplication. Okay? And the last one will be associative property for multiplication. When we say associative property for multiplication, the grouping of the factors does not affect the product. Again, this will be the grouping of the factors does not affect the product. So let's have some example. So we have 2 times 3 times 4 is equal to 2 times 3 times 4. So as you can see, we have groupings of factors. So the first that we will multiply is the groupings, okay? So 2 times 3 is equal to 6 times 4. While on the other side, we have 3 times 4 is equal to 12. So 2 times 12. And then, we'll multiply 6 times 4 is equal to 24. And 2 times 12 is equal to 24. It means the grouping of the factors does not affect the product. Okay? So another example. 8 times 5 times 6 is equal to 8 times 5 times 6. So on the first side, the first factor that we need to multiply is 8 times 5. And on the other side, the first factor that we will multiply is 5 times 6. So let's multiply. 8 times 5 is equal to 40. Then we'll just bring down times 6. On the other side, we'll just bring down 8 times 5 times 6 is equal to 30. Now, we'll multiply both sides. So, 40 times 6 and 8 times 6. So, 40 times 6 is equal to 240. Same on the other side, 8 times 30 is equal to 240. Okay? So, last example. We have 7 times 6 times 9 is equal to 7 times 6 times 9. Now, first factor that we need to multiply will be 7 times 6. And then the other side, it will be 6 times 9. So, 7 times 6 is equal to 42. Then, we'll just bring down 9. And then, 7 times 6 times 9 is equal to 54. Then, we'll just multiply both sides. So, 42 times 9 is equal to 378. And 7 times 54 is equal to 378. Again, this is associative property for multiplication. The grouping of the factors does not affect the product. Okay? And that's all for today. See you on our next session. Thank you!